Hey, I want to do a quick video about one of the greatest things about running, the runner's high. So who doesn't want to feel high and happy? And it's free, legal, and no real negative side effects. It seems like most people can run 5 or less miles at a relatively fast pace for them and possibly feel a runner's high, or maybe 5 to 10 miles or better at a slower pace and get into that runner's high feeling. Typically when you hear about runner's high, you hear about endorphins, the adrenal glands cranking out special, biochemistry balances that just make us feel high as a kite. If you feel like you're floating along, if you're just giggling for no reason, laughing while you run, if you feel like you can run forever, you're probably experiencing a runner's high. My personal best runner's high would have been at last April's 100-mile endurance run. It was my first attempt at that, and I experienced hours of runner's high, just feeling giddy, on top of the world. It didn't really kick in till, I don't know, maybe 12 hours into the run, and it went late into the darkness of the night. So just a few days ago, I signed up to attempt to do that same 100-miler again in late April 2015, hoping I can replicate that great experience. The runner's high was a very special part of that. One of the cool things about training for a 100-miler is I'll get to experience lots of free runner's highs along the way. I've already started doing lots of barefoot running on an indoor track, and I'm running far enough now that way to start feeling the runner's high kicking in. And it's gotten me thinking more about what's really going on there. And I think it has more to do with just endorphins. My thinking is it has a lot to do with delivering the maximum amount of oxygen to our brain. Maybe it's because I run a lot, yet I'm not really very competitive, that I seem to be experiencing probably more than my fair share of runner's highs. How do we get the maximum amount of oxygen to our brains? Pretty simple, really. It has to do with posture, standing tall from the waist with the crown of the head sort of pulling up towards the sky to expand the rib cage, and doing that while breathing as deeply as possible into our lower abs. And while on the track the other day, I was trying to practice exhaling all that extra air out of my lungs before breathing deep in, and that just got me to thinking more about maximizing clean airflow into my bloodstream. So posture, running technique, general fitness, those are really important, but I think there's something equally, if not more important, the health of your vascular system. Oh gosh, just in a few days I'll be at 4 years on a 100% plant-based diet. So that means my arteries theoretically have softened. There's less plaque inside my vascular system. By running lots of marathons and ultra marathons, I've developed the mitochondria and capillaries further to help deliver more oxygen and nutrients to the muscles and to the brain, of course. Obviously, when we die, oxygen stops going to our brain. So it seems that everything we do should be geared towards delivering as much oxygen as possible to our whole bodies, but especially our brains. Keeping lean, keeping our caloric intake to the minimum it needs to be, all of these things would go a long way towards giving our body the break it needs so that it can pump the maximum amount of blood to our brains. Combining that with maybe some caffeine, that seems to help my runner's highs. The heavy intake of oxygen, a great diet, high heart rate for a prolonged period of time. All of these things working in concert would theoretically produce the maximum amount of energy exchanging inside the brain. So kind of where I'm headed with this is to operate at a higher frequency, higher energy, more happy, more joyful level, it's the LSD, long, slow distance running. Might be the very best way. I used to dabble in some triathlons, and swimming and biking are excellent, but they just don't seem to give me the same level of high and the general sense of well-being that I get from distance running. About all the things you could do to help yourself feel better, to get high, whatever, when you look at the risks and costs, I don't think anything comes close to running as the vehicle to get there. In the book Born to Run, there was a section that got into kind of comparing the anatomy, physiology of, say, a rabbit with a mountain lion or whatever. Both of those animals' bodies are built to deliver the maximum amount of oxygen in the shortest amount of time, for the mountain lion to get food, or for the rabbit to avoid becoming food. And our bodies are really perfectly engineered to walk or run great distances very efficiently, and our bodies as well are designed to be oxygen delivery systems.